Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Margot McKinnon, and she's had two near-death experiences, and it sounds like you've had spiritual experiences your whole life.
I have.
So if you'd like to share your story, I'll let you start wherever you like and take as long as you like, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. And I was delighted that you reached out to have me on your show.
Thank you for
This is really
coming.
exciting. And the more we can create a wider community for understanding near-death experience and understanding us as spiritual beings. So my story begins, well, as a child, and probably many of your viewers have very similar experiences. I remember as early as 3 and 4 years old, having a voice, a very strong, powerful, it seemed to me to be a male kind of booming voice that would talk to me when I was a child. And the very first one that I remember, I was about 4 years old. I was a mother. I felt like a mother from a little girl. I had all my dolls. I was one of those little girls who had the crib and the doll and the bottles and all of those things, right? So I had a little doll named Michael, and I used to put him to bed at night, and his crib was in the living room. My family was all in the basement, and I'd go up, oh, it's time to put Michael to bed. So I'd go up and give him his bottle and put him in and tuck in his little blanket. And then one night I heard, "You are to be a teacher." And it was dark in my living room. And as a little 4-year-old, I hadn't even gone to school yet, but I had 2 older siblings who went to school. So I knew what school was. And I said, okay, I will be a teacher. And there were many opportunities over time where I could have been something else, where I could have made a whole bunch of money. But I had promised at 4 years old, Peggy, that I would be a teacher. And I stayed to that. I was a high school English teacher. But I realize now that, I've heard that voice at other times, but I would say that was the most powerful one. It set me on my life path. And I've had numerous, like I saw spirits. I never felt like a human being. I always knew that I was lugging around this big body, and I'm 5'10", Peggy. This is a big body that I had to lug around. I always felt that feeling of being a stranger here in life, as being an observer of life. And I'm going to just focus on 2 experiences that were really powerful, because I've had lots all the way through my life, but I really want to show your viewers today how they can use NDE information to improve their lives, because I'm a teacher. I don't teach high school anymore. I teach about spiritual things now. So the first one is the NDE that you were talking about. I had 2, but I'm going to focus on the one that was when I was about 36 years old. My mom had passed earlier that year, and I was actually doing a spiritual ceremony, and I dropped, like I just fell to the ground. And well, kind of this way, boom. And my spirit came out, and it went, like, even if your audience does that right now, you just go up, you look up at a white light, and you go.
And I'm sorry, what happened? I mean,
of having this kind.
What led up to that?
I was in a spiritual ceremony.
Okay.
I was in an Indigenous spiritual ceremony, and I don't like to talk about the actual ceremony, but it was a fasting. So it was like day 3 of fasting. And anyway, I fell over like this in this ceremony. And my spirit came immediately out, and it went up into this white light. And my mom, as I said, had passed, and my mom came down. But I was in the exhilaration of the white light, absolute unconditional love. And in this experience, Peggy, I was thinking, open open your eyes bigger, open your mouth bigger, which will make your eyes bigger. I'm not quite sure why I thought opening my eye, because your pupils are only so big. But anyway, up there, I was going like this. And this white light was being infused into my body like this. And then I went up and I could see other spirits going up beside me, like they were shooting up too. But my mom came down, and my mom had this smile that was like this when she was a human. So her smile was like bright like that. And she said, oh, you can't come up any farther. I want you to come with me, but you can't come up any farther. You have to go back down. So I came to into my body, and it was like, and my friend in the ceremony had said, Margot, she called my name really hard and fast, and it kind of yanked my spirit back in, which if any of your viewers have somebody who's just looking like they're ready, call their name, use their name, keep their name to keep their spirit in their body. Anyway, she called my name, and I came to, and I was looking, I was still on the ground, and I was looking around. I didn't know where I was or who I was. And then when my friend said, Margot, are you okay? And I thought, oh, yes, I'm Margot McKinnon. Margot McKinnon, the teacher. So you see, that teacher came in. It's my anchor. It's who I am. It's what my purpose is. It's why I'm here. And it's the one that keeps me here. So that very powerful experience for me. And then I realized that, you see, I was with my mom when she passed. She passed of cancer. And she wanted me to come and be with her on her last few days. She lives on the other side of the country, and she wanted me to be with her in her last few days because she wanted to talk about her spiritual stories with somebody who would listen and not judge and not explain them to her or anything, right? She just wanted to tell her stories, and I was her person for that. And as it turns out, that my cousin, she said, oh, your mom told me that when she passed, she only wanted you in the room and your dad. So she had waited for me to come to Ottawa, which is on the other side of the country. I live in Calgary in the mountain area. She waited for me to come. And then when she was ready, after she had told me her stories, and that it was time for her to go up. But guess what her face looked like when she passed? Like that. She had her mouth open and her eyes had gone really big. And I thought, oh, after I had my near-death experience in that ceremony, I thought, oh, I now know what my mom was looking at. She was looking at the absolute unconditional love. She was opening up her mouth wide enough to just soak it all in, right? And while she was having that experience, I was talking to her spirit and just saying, Mom, you can release, you can go. You are a wonderful mother, a wonderful wife, sister, friend. You're released in to go back home. And that's not to say if people have an experience where their loved one's face does not look like that they were not looking at unconditional love. I'm not saying that because I think there are so many, and you interview people who have them, there are so many varieties, right? But this is what happened to me. And I think my near-death experience happened to me where I opened my eyes so big at my mouth so that I would understand my mom. So I think the spirits gave me that as a gift so I could understand what happened to her. So when I went up there, and it was this absolute unconditional love, and I came back to the earth plane again, I thought, wow, I miss that unconditional love. So beautiful over there. How come it's not so beautiful down here? Then my son, who was 3 at the time, I was tucking him into bed, and his name's Alex, and I was tucking him into bed, and he said, you know, Mom, before I was born, I was talking to God. And of course I want to know, like, oh yeah, what does God look like? You know, is God a man or a woman? And he said, God is like, it's just pure white. It's pure white. You're not looking at anything. It's pure white. but you can hear the talking. But not like we're talking, but you can hear the talking. And God told me I had to come down and be a human. I said, really? Well, what did you say? Well, I told him I didn't want to come down because it's so nice over there, Mom. So nice. And it's just not nice down here. And I told God I didn't want to come. And I said, well, what did God say? Well, God told me I had to come. So I asked God to show me my mother. And so he took a picture of you and he showed, like, out of a photo album, and he showed me this picture of you. And I said, oh, she looks mean and I don't want to come down and be her son. Now, when you're listening to people tell about their spiritual experiences, you go, no judgment. It is what it is. And I said, okay, so then what happened? Did you tell God you didn't want to come down? And he said, no, God told me I had to come down. And when God tells you, you have to do something, you have to do it, Mom. And I got inside your body, and then I was born, and I looked at your face and I thought, oh, you're beautiful. And I'm so glad you're my mom. But the thing about that story is he was born dead. He was feet first. He had the umbilical cord around his neck. He was coming down the chute, and they had to, it was really an emergency. And he came out black and blue, and they had to whip him over to the table. And all I could hear was, come on, baby, breathe. Come on, baby, breathe. And so they brought him back to life. And I think that conversation, I think he had an NDE. I think that conversation happened when he was in that position of deciding, do I come or do I go?
That's what I was thinking when you were saying that.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's what I was thinking when you said that.
Yes. And I'm very, very lucky that he listened and he had that conversation. He's 31 now. And I said, what do you remember now? And he said, I don't remember the conversation anymore, but I remember the picture. But I've been watching all these NDE stories, not all, but I mean, I watch Alex Ferrari's show, Next Level Soul.
Yeah.
And yours, and people telling. And a lot of people are saying that you come down with a blueprint, but you forget your blueprint. And when they go back into and they have their NDE, they're reviewing their life, but it's in pictures. It's in little videos. And I thought, my son was given a little picture, like his blueprint picture, out of his blueprint. He was remembering his blueprint, and that's why he decided to come down. I thought that was so interesting. And I see clients, like, I go into the spiritual dimension for them, and I never understood that what was happening to me until I got this blueprint idea. But when I'm talking to a client, I have them tell me their story, just like you're doing right now. Tell me your story, but over here I'm seeing a little video. And sometimes that little video is quite different than what your story you're telling me. And I thought, I bet I'm seeing their blueprint. Doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes I see a picture. And I think, if your viewers start looking, well, what are the little pictures you're seeing? What are the little videos that you're seeing? Is that part of your blueprint to get you back on track? So anyway, that experience was very powerful. And because when I came back, and with my son saying it's not very nice down here, I thought, I was a high school English teacher, and I thought, I am going to bring heaven to earth in my classroom. I'm going to make my classroom a space where children feel seen, heard, loved, listened to, understood, with absolute unconditional love. And I'm going to make that a space for them so that no matter what's happening in their life, they know they have this space they can go to that is like heaven on earth. So that was really, and in my home, this is my heaven on earth space. I created exactly how my spirit wants it to be. So that was one. So if one of you viewers, say to yourself, how can I create heaven on earth? How can I create space for people so they feel seen and heard, listened to, the whole thing. They feel unconditional love. Not, though, to bring in toxic people, not to be a doormat, but to, you know, be non-judgmental and be that white light space for people. Now, so that was one. That was my near-death experience. And then my second one I want to talk about today, because I have so many, I could go on all day. But the second one, I was doing my master's degree because my school wanted me to become a principal, because they could see how my students were blossoming. And they were performing really well on these standardized tests and everything. And my principal recognized what I was doing. And occasionally I'd get a parent complaining, right? Because I don't tolerate misbehavior in the classroom. I just don't. We don't do that here. No temper tantrums, no swearing, no calling other kids names, no making anybody. And occasionally a parent would come in and say, well, no, my son needs to express himself that way. And I said, well, not here. No, this is a space where everybody feels safe and cared about and listened to. So occasionally a parent would come in, right? And my principal would always say the same thing. Your child is so lucky to have her. Let her do her job. So anyway, they wanted me to be a principal. So I went off to do my master's degree, and I was doing teacher professional learning as my topic and how they could set professional goals. But I took one class just for myself, Peggy, and it was called Philosophy of Mind. We had to do 10 courses, and I took one just for myself, the 10th class, right? And the first homework assignment was, how are the body, mind, spirit related? Well, isn't that my favorite topic? Is that not our favorite topic of all time, right? All you viewers, everybody out there, it's our favorite topic. So anyway, because I have that voice that comes in and talks to me, I went home and I cleared my space and I asked that voice, so what's the answer? And I always write things down on these yellow pads of paper like this. And so I wrote down all the answer on this yellow pad of paper. And what it said to me is, we have more than 3 dimensions. We have 5 dimensions of self, 5. That's why we have 5 fingers. It reminds us that we have 5 dimensions. Have you attended to your 5 dimensions? So I'm listening, and I'm also asking questions all the while. And it said, I'm actually going to adjust it for your audience, and I'll explain in a minute why I'm adjusting it. But it said, you have a body. Okay, there's my body. It looks like this. And your physical self. You have a mind. Okay, that's your logical, rational self. Okay, you have a spirit. And we believe, I think most of your audience, that we came from absolute unconditional love down here to be human. We're going to go back into unconditional love. Spirit is your connection to unconditional love. It's your connection to the spiritual dimension. It's part of you. It's part of who you are. It is your remembering of that peaceful, unconditional love that you came from. It's your eternal self. So that's your spirit. But it said we have a soul. And at the time I thought, spirit and soul, I thought they were the same thing. No. It was this big figure in my living room that stepped forward to tell me all of this. When I asked the question, it was this massive figure. It said, no, spirit and soul aren't the same thing. And I said, well, what's the difference? Well, your spirit is that connection to unconditional love and peacefulness. And your soul is your purpose. It's your reason why you came here, why you incarnated. Oh, interesting. So spirit and soul are different dimensions. Okay. Then it said you have oneness. That is your connection to me, God. You are partly God. You have a dimension that is God. It is your dimension of connection and belonging, of being a part of everything. So in my book, I have it like this. This is so I can do, I drew it like this on my cover so that I could talk to your audience like this. So it said, we have a body, we have a mind, We have a spirit, we have a soul, and we have oneness. And I love that it looks like a stick figure, you know? And I drew this like this because they're all of equal importance. Sometimes you see a hierarchy, you know, where the spiritual is the highest. Well, they're all important. They're all equally important. And so I put it like this, but the voice carried on, Peggy, and it said, you're born dominant in one of your dimensions and you grow the others over time. Body dominant people. They're very good. Their spirit came into their body and yay, they love it. Hair, makeup, nails, fashion, design, shopping, dinner parties. I'm not a body dominant person, but I have body dominant friends and I love it because they put on fantastic dinner parties and they're my mentors on how to get into the body dimension. Mind dominant people, very logical, rational systems, strategies. They typically are your like managers, CEOs of companies, banking, engineering. Spirit, this is, I would consider myself a spirit dominant person. A spirit dominant person is somebody who values unconditional love above everything else. And the thing about spirit dominant people, just like in my near-death experience, they see this world as unnecessarily harsh and abrasive. And sometimes they just want to go home now. They get saturated by the human experience every day. And they want to crawl into their bed and have a nap or have a drink or hide away from the world. So spirit dominant people. And I had spirit dominant students. When I showed them this model, it was the kids who were spirit dominant who stayed behind and said, you just explained my whole life to me. What do I do about it? So I showed them what to do about it and I put it in here, what to do about it. So then you have soul dominant people and they only want to do their purpose. They don't want to do a job that's not on their purpose. They only want to do a job, like if it's social work or nursing or something that has a purpose that serves humanity. That's what they want to do. So don't ask them to sell lipstick over at the lipstick counter because they're not doing it. They want to do something on their soul purpose. And then oneness dominant, they value connection and belonging more than anybody else. Does that make sense, Peggy?
Yeah, it's just I'm thinking about all the people that I call New Age that talk about oneness. Oneness is not what you're talking about, but I've just heard it so much. And I'm like, what are you talking about oneness? You guys exclude everybody that's not just like minded like you know? So my mind's going elsewhere where it shouldn't be when you talk about that.
Well, no, I'm glad you're imagining because I'm hoping your viewers are imagining as well. They're saying, oh, my dad is a mind dominant. Oh, my sister is a body dominant. And you can start imagining who, but in my book, I show you how, you know, what you look like when you're super healthy, but then what you look like when you're stressed. So mind dominant people, when they're stressed, can become quite micromanaging because they have these systems and they've set up these systems that we're to live in and manage, and they can start micromanaging and start thinking, well, they might even start calling people idiots. I work with a bunch of idiots. Oh, all these idiots on the road. And so they can start micromanaging and they start trying to get everybody back into the system they created. And spirit dominants hide away and want to go home. But here's where I want to go with this today with you, Peggy, is the spirits are really telling me that we need more spirit dominant leaders because they understand unconditional love, peacefulness, joy, creating safe space for people to flourish. But the trouble is we live in a mind dominant world. Like we have a mind dominant structure that we have to live in. Schools, a lot of them, especially public schools, are mind dominant systems. And my goal is, how do we break down the mind dominant system so that the spirit of the children can flourish, that they can find their soul purpose, that they can feel at one with everything, connection and belonging. So I was actually, spirits told me to go to Scotland because I'm Scottish by heritage. And when I was there, I said, why did you give me this theory at this point in time? Now you have to realize this was 2001. I wrote the first book over here, which is this one. And then this one, because people like this one, it's called The Exquisiteness of Being Human. And at this time in my life, I had that sensation of, I just want to go home now. How long do I have to stay here? And what am I supposed to be doing here? Like, as a child, I used to lie on my bed and go, how long do I have to do that for the rest of my life? Like, breathe, eat, walk, do all of this, when my spirit wanted to soar. And I remember looking at my sister one time. She's body dominant. And she was so comfortable in her environment. And I was sitting on the edge of a seat, like barely touching the seat. And I looked at her and I thought, oh, wow, the difference between you and me is you're at home everywhere and I'm at home nowhere. And it was in that moment, Peggy, that I decided I was going to reshape my life so that I was at home everywhere. I felt like, because I realized my oneness dimension was low, I didn't have a strong sense of connection and belonging to this world. And so I decided, well, I'm going to build it. I'm going to grow it. And so this book I called The Exquisiteness of Being Human, because I wanted to find the exquisiteness of my life. Like, what am I doing here? What's Margot McKinnon, the teacher? Is there more to me than being a high school teacher? Is there more I'm supposed to be doing? What is that more? That's what I want to know. And I bet some of your viewers are going, yeah, I think there's more to me too. I want to know what my more is. So where I'm going in my life right now is doing the more leadership. And if we get back to that blueprint idea, that we were born with a blueprint that we forgot, I now, like, this is kind of a new concept for me. I never really thought about it. I've only been thinking about it for the last couple of months, to be fair. But I love it. I love the idea that no matter what's happening to me in this moment, it's part of my blueprint. It's up to me to say, oh, I get it. I see what's happening to me right now. I see what's happening to me. It's part of my blueprint. And I'm going to resolve it. I'm going to make it flourish, whatever this is. So this model really, really helped me, because I realized I'm spirit dominant. How am I going to be of service to God, the universe, creator, and tell everybody about the dominance theory and help people recognize that we live too much in a mind dominant society? Because when I was over in Scotland, I said, why did you give me this theory? And it said, because body dominants are ruining the earth with materialism, buying things, and mind dominants have created a structure that's so tight that people are getting depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, because it's becoming too restricted. So the spirit said to me, Margot, you need to go and show spirit dominant people how to get more grounded so that we can have more spirit dominant leaders, or at least some mind dominants who have grown their other dimensions so that they're fully realized people. And to recognize that there are all types of people. What do you think, Peggy?
Well, I don't know. I never really thought of it in those terms. I mean, the three, yes, everybody thinks of, mind, body, spirit, but then when you added the soul and the one, then it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to put that in my head. I hear what you're saying, but I'm also thinking, like, it'd be nice if we could incorporate what you're saying into career development in schools when they start thinking about, what do I want to do? Like, what's your soul desire?
What exactly? And then I said, when I was explaining this model, I said, the spirits, that big voice, that big entity that entered my living room to deliver this vision to me, I said, it didn't exactly say it the way I'm saying it today, and I'll tell you why. When I wrote this book, this was my first telling of that vision. And that big voice actually said to me, we have 5 dimensions, but it started with oneness, Pegi. We have oneness. We have a soul, a spirit, a mind, and a body. But my editor on my second, because this is more of a guidebook, it shows you how to use the model. I have all kinds of exercises and all in here and everything. But my editor on this one said, Margot, start with body. Don't start with oneness. We live in a mind-dominant society. If you start with oneness, you're going to lose your mind-dominant or body-dominant people. They're going to say, oneness? That's too far-fetched for me. It's too woo-woo. Start with body and say to them, yes, we have a body. Okay, here's mine. There's yours. We have a mind, a logical, rational. Okay, yeah, I can get that. A spirit, a real self. One that values unconditional love, passion, excitement, joy, all those things. Because we know that we can be in a job that's crushing our spirit. So we can be in a mind-dominant job and there's our spirit getting crushed by it. They're 2 different dimensions. Your spirit is not living the life it wants in that job. Then, okay, they can get that, especially since, mind dominance. Yeah, I can get that. My job's crushing my spirit. Then you have a soul, purpose and meaning, and then oneness. Oh yeah, I get it. I see it. So when I go from body to oneness, but hey, Pegi, what would happen if we actually followed what the spirits told me and we start our day with oneness? What if we put oneness first? And not the body first? What if we put connection and belonging first? How would our world be different?
Well, I'm trying to picture it in schools and workplace, and I can't.
Well, that's very interesting. You should say that, because that's where I'm going with this. I was a very different teacher. You probably figured that out already. Really open, really listening, created this space for kids to nurture kids and nurture their spirit. And we laughed a lot. And sometimes mind-dominant teachers would go by and, is any learning happening in there? Because what they thought learning looked like was all the kids in rows, everybody with their head down, everybody working, quiet, all that. But you walk by my classroom and they're talking and they're laughing. And all I had to say was, well, go and look at their results. Because our kids in Alberta have to write these provincial exams. I'm Canadian, for anybody who hasn't figured that out already. But so they have to write I don't mark them. They have to go up to up north, and they get marked up there by not me. And all you have to do is look at what my kids' results are. And that's why they wanted me to be a principal. How do we get these results? Well, you have to change this mind-dominant structure. Kids are resisting that now, and especially after COVID as well, Pegi. They don't want to go into the old mind-dominant system anymore. So we had lots of laughing, but I got this, the universe has given me a really great lesson in the last year. So I live in a condo, and my condo we only have 26 units, so it's a little boutique condo right downtown. And my community wanted me on the board, on the condo board, to help run the board. And so I agreed to that. Not that I really wanted to, but I said, okay, I'll do that. So there was a massive construction project that had to be done. And so I took that on as my leadership role. It was $350,000, which is a lot of money. And I had to manage that whole project. So I really had to body, mind. But there were some people in the building who are mind dominant micromanagers saying, Margot, you have to be on those workers. You have to follow them around. You have to. I said, no, I don't. I hired somebody to do that, an engineering company to do that. My job is to create a beautiful space for them to work in. Margot, you're going to be a big failure if you don't manage that. And I said, I am managing it. It's just my managing doesn't look like you're managing. So they said, so in our meetings, I'd say, how can we make this a really good experience for you? I would ask the construction workers, and they kind of looked at me. What do you mean? Well, is there something we can do to help you out or make it nicer for you? Well, no, I think we're okay. Well, I baked for them every Friday, Peggy. So I'd come out on their break with fresh baked chocolate chip cookies or brownies. And then it was summertime and I had popsicles for them on those hot days. And so I was bringing them out and they're going, wow, like this is like such a nice place. And I said, well, my goal is that every time you pass by our building and you're going by, you say, oh, I worked on that building and they're really good people in there. And be proud of the work you did. Well, Peggy, didn't they go above and beyond all expectations? They were fixing things that had been broken around here. They were none of part of their job. Why? Because we cared about them. We wanted to make it a really nice experience for them. They didn't need to be micromanaged. Micromanagement creates resistance. But when you lighten up on this micromanaging and you just let people flourish and do their job and look at them like, I really trust that you're going to do a great job. How can I support you? You'll get far better results. So anyway, we finished that project off and they wanted me now to be the chair of the board. So in the first beginning, I was managing this $350,000 project. Well, now I'm managing a multi-million-dollar corporation called the condo. So we had an on-site manager who was very toxic, micromanaging galore. She was screaming at people, foul language, blaming people. It was awful. And when I became the condo chair, I said, oh, we don't do that here. We don't swear. We don't hire people who swear and blame people and scream at them. This is our home. This is our sacred space. So anyway, but the micromanagers in the building thought she was doing an excellent job because she was controlling everybody in the building, right? Locking us down. This is how you do it. This is what management looks like. So people have an idea of what management of this kind of system structures management looks like. And I come along and I have a different management system because I'm a spirit dominant leader. And so anyway, we let her go. Oh, there was a big hue and cry in the building from the people who wanted this micromanaging. And I said, well, just wait, you'll see what happens. You're going to have to wait for the results. The results will come in a month, 2 months, you're going to see. So anyway, we let her go. And they said, well, our building is going to go to rack and ruin because who's going to clean the building? Well, we're going to hire a professional cleaning company. So now we have a professional cleaning company at a third what we were paying her. And our building is shining. Everything is shining in here. Then this man, one of my neighbors is, he's a very shy man and we hardly ever see him. But I can see his balcony from my balcony, and I noticed he had these beautiful plants last year. And I said, hey, listen, your balcony is gorgeous. What a green thumb you have. And so this year I said, hey, would you be interested on a volunteer basis looking after all our gardens and everything here? Because we have a lawn cutter and an edger, but we don't have anybody who goes out there and waters flowers. So our grass gets kind of brown and burnt out. Well, hey, guess what, Peggy? Now that we don't have this on-site manager micromanaging everybody, people are coming out wanting to help for free. So he's out, he's got the sprinklers going. Guess what? Our grass is all lush and green now. So we're living in a sparkly clean building. Our grass are lush and green. Another woman has said, well, I'd like to buy some of these really beautiful roses for the garden. Right on. So now we're going to have like a rose garden. Things are getting better. I started a newsletter that highlights different things around the building. And then I'm having a happy hour on the last Friday of the month. So people are friends now. They're coming out to happy hours. People are coming out of the woodwork because they want to help. I heard a rattle battle out here out my window just before we started. And I thought, oh, what's happening out front? So I look out my window and there's another owner. He's taking all of our wine and beer cans back to the bottle depot, and he'll be back and he'll slide the money under the door, and then we can use it for our happy hour. So people are just stepping up, and without even being asked, they want to contribute and help. So what happens when we break down these structures that are strangling people and restricting people? It's better. That's what spirit dominant leadership looks like. We don't need all these big systems. It'll get done better. What do you think?
Sounds like it's working for you.
So do you have any questions?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
So, near-death experiences. I think we got off topic there, didn't we? I don't know where to go from here.
Well, it's not really though, Peggy, because people can tell their experiences, but what can we get out of them? The consistent story that people have in their near-death experience, and you'd probably know better than me because you interview people all day long, but they go into this absolute unconditional love. When they come back down here, they feel lonely for it. They're different. They don't feel like they have anybody they can talk to about it. They, feel kind of alone in the world. So I'm hoping that when they listen to this podcast of yours, they'll say, okay, rather than feeling lonesome for that unconditional love, I'm going to take it on and become a force of unconditional love. And I'm going to create spaces at work, at home, with my neighbors, so that we can bring more unconditional love here. We can bring heaven to earth. We can bring what we experience. It doesn't have to just stay over there, Peggy. We can bring it down here and create that unconditional love down here. That's what we're here for.
It makes me think of the movie Patch Adams, when he's talking to his roommate they're in conflict, and Patch says something like, oh, and you really think being an asshole is the only way to get things done? I forget how young you are.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So, I'd love to see spirit dominant. They're the ones who remember and value that unconditional love. They remember it. They long for it. They miss it. And I'm saying, instead of missing it and longing for it, bring it here. You can do it here. You don't have to go home to find it. You can bring it here. You can live it here. Live it here.
A lot of people say,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, a lot of people hear NDEs and, oh, I want to go, or they have their NDE and they're homesick. And I'm thinking, like you're saying, make heaven on earth here.
Yes,
make it better.
Exactly. And it means we have to become a little tougher, a little stronger. So before this book, these two books came to me and that figure came in, I was in a deep, dark pit of despair. Well, because I went through a divorce and everything, and I had 3 little kids, and I was a teacher, and it just seemed like I had, I never had enough money, and I was like living on a shoestring and hoping I had enough money to buy food for my kids and clothes and all that, right? So I was really in this. And I would bring my kids to their dads on my way to work because they'd go in there on Thursdays, and they were there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one week. And then the next week they'd be at Thursday, Friday there, and then back to me Saturday, Sunday. So anyway, it was a Thursday, Friday day. And I was dropping the kids off. And this is before this came in, okay? And so they, I dropped them off and I went around the corner, and Peggy, I was crying so hard, I couldn't drive my car because I missed my kids. And I thought, how am I going to manage 4 days without my kids? They're like, I was that little girl who had all her dolls and all her babies and everything from the time, like, and now my babies are, 3, 5, and 7 running off there to their dads. And so anyway, I had to pull my car over because I was crying so hard, like just heaving, crying. And then I heard that same voice that came in and it said, Margot, you can either cry all weekend for the 4 days, or you can get your life back. And I'm not sure if we're frozen right now. I think we froze there for a second. You can either use your 4 days to cry, or you can use your 4 days to remember who you are. Who are you? What is it that you love to do? So I started, I was going to see if I could be an artist, then a sewer, no, then a cook, like I was going to bake. I'm okay, but just cookies and brownies, not like masterpieces. And then I started writing. Oh man, I'm a writer. So I promised my spirit that I would remember her and bring her back into my life. That spirit that's going to go back in, we can have an NDE, but we're spiritual beings. We live between these worlds. And some of us, it's not an NDE. It feels like we're having a near life experience, Peggy, because we're so spirit dominant and we're so connected to the other side. We're barely living our lives here. We're having a near life experience. And I realized I was having a near life experience because I had devoted all my energy to my husband and my teaching and my kids. And I'd really forgotten about my own spirit, my own life.
I think that's the beauty of divorce is realizing once the shock's over is that, okay, who was I before I was married?
Correct. Yes. We're going to hit a chord with some of your viewers. They're going to say, yeah, that was exactly me, right? And so what I did was I said, well, I'm going to spend the next 365 days this year. I'm going to explore me. I'm going to find out what I love to do. And I'm going to reclaim my identity. And guess what? When you go back over there for your judgment day, for your whatever you want to call life review, whatever that is, you're going to be asked, did you grow entirely into yourself? And if you say, well, no, I devoted myself, like what you're down here for is to be entirely yourself, your unique, wonderful, beautiful self. So I use that time because when I didn't have my kids, instead of crying, I went about, well, after a while, my married friend said, how do I get your lifestyle? Well, you have to get divorced to get my lifestyle. So it was like, because I didn't have my kids full time after. So anyway, I got my life back and I got so excited about it and everything. And then I said I used to use Friday afternoons because I used to get off work early on Friday afternoons. And I'd say, okay, God, I'm all yours right now. I'm all yours. Whatever you want me to do, I'm at your servant. Oh man, I would get all these like phone calls, do this, do that, because we need to be a good instrument. I want to be that person that God knows that he, she, it can work through me. And I'm listening and I'm on it and I'm doing it. I want to be one of God's people that, that he can count on down here. And so now I don't have that pining to go home anymore, Peggy. I don't have that longing anymore. I have this, I better live till I'm 150 years old because I have so much to do. So I still listen to that voice. That voice guides me. I got myself back and I said to God, God, I'm ready now. I've recovered myself. Ready to be more of service to you. And guess what? Soon after, boom, got my first book, The Dominance Theory, came in. And then I realized, oh, I still have more growing to do, because I was a little bit shy. Like I couldn't do public presentations, like if I had to get up and speak. So I thought, okay, I've got to transcend that now. So I got this position at work where I had to do a 5-minute talk once a month. I was so nervous. And then I remember the day, Peggy, I sat down after giving my 5 minutes, and I thought, I forgot to get nervous. I forgot totally to get nervous. And after that, I remember I was on stage and I was presenting about invisible kids to teachers. And I made this short film about invisible kids, which are actually spirit dominant kids, invisible kids. And I had made this film and I'm on a stage. I've got this big thing. I'm all wired up with my little mic pack and everything. And I was up there and I thought, oh, I feel completely at home on a stage now. So I transcended all my kind of spirit dominant weaknesses of being saturated by the human experience, about needing my naps, about kind of wanting to kind of stay away from people because I found people were exhausting. And so I transcended all of that, and my life is growing bigger and bigger and bigger, because you can only rise to the level of how much you can handle. And if you want to stay as a spirit dominant and just wanting to go home, then you can't handle very much. So it's just incrementally growing your strength as a human being. And so NDEs are reminders to us that we have a blueprint. Sometimes we do get off track, and you know when you get off track because it doesn't feel right. You know when you're back on track because it feels right. And we want to grow entirely into ourselves. Let's take Oprah Winfrey, for example. When she first started at 17, she was a news reporter, and she had to run there doing her homework and all that stuff at night. But she used to try and be Barbara Walters. She said, I sat like Barbara Walters. I dressed like Barbara Walters. I was trying to interview like Barbara Walters. And it wasn't until Oprah decided to be Oprah and say, I'm going to transcend all my little things that are getting in the way of my life, that she became Oprah. So everybody who's listening, don't compare yourself to anyone else. You go completely with who your spirit is, and ask your spirit, have I created the life you want to live? And that's your number one job.
Okay. Is there anything you want to leave us with, or anything you didn't get to cover?
I don't think so. I'm really hoping that people reach out to me and then say, yeah, I resonated with this. I was on a podcast recently, and I'm getting so many wonderful emails from all over the world. And they seem to be resonating with that feeling of wanting to go home. And when I say to you, just come back in and make your life here exquisite. That's your number one job. They're resonating with that. They're resonating with creating the life your spirit wants to live. They're resonating with, we're in too much of a mind-dominant world. We need to get more spirit-dominant leaders. Now, I run leadership sessions. I teach you how to deal with toxic people. I show you how to stop being invisible and to stand up and walk into a room and be noticed. I teach you about your 5 dimensions and how to respond to mind-dominant people. So we're just at the end of the session for this summer. And I don't usually run them over the summer because people are all on holiday, but I'm going to set new dates in September. But if any of your viewers want to email me, you're going to put up my email at some point, right?
Okay.
Okay, and so if anybody wants to email me or check out my website, which is www.drmargotmckinnon.com, that's DRMARGOTMCKINNON.com. You can look up my website. You can order a book off of my website, and I'll pop it in the mail for you straight away. You can have a look at my my webinars that I run. I try and run them on Sunday mornings. And I think it's Sunday. Yeah, Sunday morning, because then my European people can get in there because of the time differences and everything. So I'm going to start up a whole new set in September. But you can book a private session with me and we can talk about where you are in your blueprint and how, because everybody has a grander and grander version of themselves just waiting in the ether to come into being, but you need to be a match for it. So anybody who's interested in all of that stuff, connect with me. I'd love to chat.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Peggy.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.